Welcome to the Heidi Thorne Show. I'm your host, Heidi Thorne, and in this podcast, I share my real-world self-publishing and small business experience with you. Before we get started, I just want to remind you to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Now let's get on with today's show. An author in an online group questioned if she should ask a friend to help make a connection with a reporter about doing a story about her and her book. While having a connection like this author did, may provide an introduction to a media source, it's no guarantee that any media coverage or stories will result from it. Getting mass media coverage for self-published books is really, really tough. As a former trade newspaper editor for 15 years, let me tell you why that is. Editors don't want your press release. Even though the trade newspaper I worked for had a pretty narrow niche, I was often bombarded with press releases from all kinds of companies and organizations that wanted me to include their stories in the newspaper. Most of them I tossed or deleted because I didn't need them. I relied on local industry associations and contacts and my supporting advertisers for a lot of the news that I included in the newspaper. Often I had enough to fill the newspaper without these unsolicited press releases. Like me, most editors and reporters have their trusted sources for news and research, and rarely do you need random outside tips and sources. That Hollywood-style scenario of a hot stop the presses news tip coming into the newsroom from an anonymous caller is just not realistic. Years ago, it was a popular suggestion that magazines and newspapers were looking for press releases and stories because they needed to fill space. It really wasn't true even then, but it was more likely in the days of print newspapers and media because when holes occurred in the design layout of the newspaper, those gaps made the publication look bad. And so it was better to fill it with something that was sort of newsworthy than to leave it blank. Now, with the infinitely flexible layout of the internet, newspapers and magazines that have digital presences online don't need to fill graphic design holes. Your self-serving and unsolicited news release would create work and expense for them to include it on their site. Here's why reporters and editors aren't interested in doing articles about your book. This is the one question that any reporter or editor is going to ask when considering your news release. What value does this provide to my audience? I have a little story to illustrate. I was in the trade show business, and as a marketing manager, I would send out quite a few press releases, and then I would follow up with a phone call to the editors. Usually I got voicemail. But on this one occasion, I was able to get through to one of the business editors at the Chicago Tribune. And I said, "Hello, I'm so-and-so. Did you get my news release on our show?" And he interrupts me. He said, "No, I don't remember receiving it." And obviously it wasn't of interest to me because it wasn't of interest to my readers. So don't call me again until you can clearly state what that value is. Oops. Usually authors are selfishly thinking backwards about getting media coverage. They want themselves and their books to be the center of attention. Remember, media coverage is earned media. So you must earn those placements by providing value to both the media and their audiences. The question comes up, does paying for press release distribution help to get coverage? There are really popular newswire services such as PR Web, which can post your press release on their site, and then they distribute it to search engines and their email list of editors and other media contacts. These are fee-based services, and the higher the price, The wider the reach and the more influential the distribution, the better editors are on those lists. Prices are usually per press release, and one of the last times I checked, the minimum it is about $100 per press release. There are some free newswire services out there, but as you might expect, the distribution may not be as expansive or effective. While reputable newswire services are valuable, paying to have your press release distributed by them does not guarantee coverage in any media whatsoever. Like everything in marketing and advertising, public relations is a long game that requires consistent, sustained effort. That could mean up to thousands of dollars a year for frequent press release distribution. This is a side tip. Don't forget to write your press release in the third person. Media may post the text of your press release as is. This saves them time from having to write or rewrite a story, and anything you can do to make a reporter's or editor's life a little easier makes it easier for you to get coverage in these publications. So what about media contacts? Like the author in the opening example, you may have some connection to a media source, be it a reporter or an editor. Those friend of a friend connections may be able to introduce you to media connections. And if you're active in local networking groups, you may also bump into media contacts who are fellow networkers and members. Don't think that just because you know a media contact or you are able to get an introduction to one, that doesn't mean that you or your story will be of interest to the media. News about you and your book must have a relevant angle to the publication or news source and its audience. Otherwise, you're just another random person trying to get some free self-centered press. Also, don't hound media contacts or your friends who have connections about getting your story to run. My Chicago Tribune example is a great illustration of that. If you submit a press release or story idea to a reporter or editor, they will only respond if they're interested. They will not send you a rejection letter. So, what can you do? Pitch a story, but not your story. When I wanted to get some media coverage for my own business, I would ask the media if I could submit an article about a topic of interest to their audience. That's totally different than pitching a story about yourself or your book. In this topic-based article, the publication will usually allow you to include a short paragraph at the end of the article for your bio. That's where you tell the reader that you're an author of such and such book and where they can find you and your book. The one type of media outlet that all authors can use for free is social media. Post your news releases on all your social media channels. Send those releases to your email list and your customers. And these are the media over which you have the most control and where you have the greatest chance of your news being read. Don't be yesterday's news. Even if you do earn a coveted media placement, realize that news is fleeting. While the internet contains a vast archive of news-based content, it quickly loses value when more relevant or timely news comes along. So better to shoot for providing media with evergreen content and value, because that has value for readers down the road, and it also has longer-term search engine value. Hope you found that helpful, and if you did, please rate, review, and subscribe to The Heidi Thorne Show on whatever podcast platform you like to use. I'm on all the major ones: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean. If there's a podcast platform, I'm probably on it. If you like the YouTube video better, just subscribe to my Heidi Thorne YouTube channel and turn on the notification bell so that you get an alert when a new video is up. I would appreciate it if you would share the audio podcast or the video with your friends on social media. If you're looking for my self-published books, they are on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. All you have to do is search for my name, Heidi Thorne, and a list of all the available books will come up. If you'd like to connect with me, my website is very simply HeidiThorne.com. Thank you for your support, and I look forward to talking with you again in the next episode. In the meantime, have a great day.